Welcome, everyone. Call the meeting to order. This meeting will be conducted remotely over Zoom, and attendance by board members will be remote, and remote attendance shall count toward quorum, which we now have. And the meeting may be broadcast live and will be recorded on ECAT. And if you join the webinar as an attendee, you'll be promoted to panelist if you need to speak later in the evening, and you can raise your hand if you would like to be recognized. So, attendance, Ed Hands,
Here.
Phil,
Here.
Jim,
Here.
Meredith,
Here.
John,
Here.
and Amanda Varela is here as well. All right. Have I forgotten anything yet, Wayne?
I think we are smooth and seamless at the moment.
Excellent. We have a special guest tonight, who I have not had an opportunity to meet, Ken Kirkland. Welcome, Ken. We're delighted to have you with us.
How's it going, guys?
So
My camera does work. I'm just sitting in front of Quincy College right now for a surprise new job dinner date with my wife and daughter. So I don't want to flood everybody's take up all my data in one shot, but it's good to see with good to meet with everybody virtually, digitally at least.
Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you. Just for the edification of everybody, I have worked. I'm from Rhode Island originally, but I've done time in both Rhode Island and Massachusetts at the municipal level. So I was in the city of Woonsocket and Cranston, Rhode Island, and then I was in Braintree and Norwell at the beginning of my professional career. So I've been doing this full time since 2017 when I was the town planner in Norwell, but I've been involved in the field of planning. This will be my 15th year. So I've done a lot of stuff, relatively speaking, in terms of my career length. So I just want to welcome everybody. This is not my first time with the 4 buckets of CPA. So I'm excited to work with Wayne, and he knows that my phrase at the net for the first couple of weeks here is I'm the sponge that's just sitting in the office and catching up and getting back into the mass mode of thinking and sponging up everybody's ideas and how everything gets done. So I appreciate the opportunity to just get a couple minutes and introduce myself here. And I don't want to take up too much of your time, but it's good to see everybody.
Same here. And as I said, I welcome aboard. But has anybody discussed the initiation?
Not yet. We're
has to go and buy drinks for everybody. Yeah, no, we should make that clear.
Excellent. Well, we're all looking forward to working with you, Ken, and thank you so much for joining us, and enjoy your celebratory dinner.
All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Bye
Take care,
now.
Ken. See you tomorrow. Have a nice night.
Ciao, you too.
All right, moving right along, we have the minutes from the meeting on August 14th to approve. Are there any changes or comments, or do I hear a motion?
I hear motion to move.
Second.
All right, so that was Ventresco moved and Hand seconded. All those in favor of approving I can't do it that way. Zoom. We'll vote. Hands.
Aye.
Vecchio.
You had it right the first time. Vecchio.
Vecchio.
Aye.
Jim. Did I hear you, Jim? I was looking down.
Aye. Yeah.
Okay. Meredith
Abstain.
and John.
Aye.
And Varela's an aye as well. All right, next up, we have committee organization, chair and vice chair. I did not get a bunch of emails clamoring for opportunities to take leadership positions on the board. I do know, unless something has changed, Wayne, I'm not aware that anyone has applied yet to fill the open position, although I am aware of one person who has expressed interest. Are there any developments on that front?
I got an email from the assistant town administrator just about an hour ago saying that they have received one application. And it is not the individual that you are thinking may apply as well.
Okay.
So we may have two if your contact chooses to apply. But so
Who
far,
resigned aside from Tom? Oh, just Tom.
Tom.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
All right, so we will wait for the next select board meeting to hear who will be joining us. And I don't know if we need to, but we certainly can vote tonight on chair and vice chair, even though we don't have a full complement yet. So are there any motions? Are there any volunteers? Are there any thoughts on this topic?
I nominate Amanda Varela for chair.
I second that.
Thank you both. That's Hand's motion and Ventresco's second. Anyone want to contest my willingness to do this, because I'm happy to be contested, but also happy to help. All right. Do we have anyone interested in being vice chair? No, I've
Who
spoken to
vice
one
chair?
person, but
Oh,
pardon?
you were vice chair. That's right.
I mean, I spoke with Amanda, I'm always interested, but my concern is where I'm at this stage of the game with parenting. I am afraid that, there are times that I have to call from my car and, driving. I'm still in the thick of I'm in the thick of it. So for me to be honest with myself and fair to my responsibilities here, I think that it would be best that I don't volunteer for that position. But I love this board so much. It's just super cool. But I got to be fair on that front.
Totally understood. I have just come out of the other side of that. It
Yeah.
does get better, but it takes a while.
Enjoy it though.
Oh, I do.
It goes
Yeah, I
by
do.
too fast, as you know.
Yeah.
I nominate Ed as vice chair.
I will respectfully decline. Thank you very much.
Okay. It's not that bad. What if I promise to attend all meetings and schedule my travel around?
Could we have like 5 vice chairs?
Whoever shows up first to the meeting could be vice chair. Wonderful.
I think that usually is you, Ed. I'm just saying.
Yeah, considering there's a tradition in the select board, when your term is about to be up, you get an office, and then the next year you can head for the hills. So that's my circumstance here. My term runs out next year, so I'll take a year. Yeah, all right. Thanks, John.
Ooh.
You
Wow.
are Ed.
Look at that.
Look at that.
I
Woohoo.
think that we've been very lucky in having real vice chairs that eventually become chairs. So, except for Tom, who walked in the door and got to be chair.
which I think is a good
Was mo-
point, is there should be a conversation, obviously, for a later meeting about what the succession plan
Yes.
is.
Yes, absolutely. All right. Hearing no other takers, is there a motion on, do we need to vote for chair and vice chair separately, Wayne?
I think we could just do it together
All right.
if we have
Sounds like
motion.
we have a slate of Varela and Hands. A
So we have
different
a
Varela
motion
than is
from,
normally associated with Hands, but hopefully I'll do in a pinch.
Very good.
So we've got a motion from John Ventresco. Do we have a second for Ed?
Second.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, sorry. Thank you for keeping me honest. All right. So Hands,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Meredith,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
and Varela is an aye as well. Thank you all, and thank you, Ed. And we will
Thank
promise
you.
do the very best we can.
Thank you, Ed.
All right. So next up, we have, did you say Jen is here? Wayne?
Yes, she is. Yeah.
Okay. We have fiscal 26 CPA applications, and a discussion and possible vote of the Wheaton Farm Barn Phase 2 of the restoration. So, Jen, if you're with us and promoted, we would love to hear from you.
There she is.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Good evening.
Just confirming this, we're looking at the open space one that was attached, correct? Or which one did you say, Amanda?
This is Wheaton Farm.
Wheaton Farm, sorry. I missed that first part. Thank you. Okay, I've got it.
Jen had nothing to do with the open space. That was John and me. So if
Okay, got it. Okay, that makes sense.
All right. So, Jen, if you could refresh our recollection on where we've been with Wheaton Farm and where you'd like us to go.
Sure thing. Thanks for having me. Wheaton Farm Barn. We've just finished the first phase where we've done all the structural work inside the barn. And the grant application that's before you now is for phase 2. And that includes the plans, the specs for the siding, the windows, replacement of the cupola, concrete floor, and the roofing. It's a historic barn in the Bay Road National Register of Historic in the Historic District. It's currently utilized by our tenant, who does, grow tons of vegetables on the property for agricultural purposes, and that's to meet the local need for food security concerns. The tenant manages the barn and the property for the Conservation Commission, so it becomes a self-sustaining property. The project is for historical purposes, and it meets a lot of the goals of the CPC, Envision Easton, Historic Preservation, and the Open Space and Recreation Plan. And the estimated cost is $246,200. We have gone with Ty and Bonds and Town Council's recommendation to include a 25% contingency due to volatility in materials and labor market. We did talk with the DPW and they said, yes, it's conservative, but it's appropriate. So just understand that the grant request of $326,550 includes a 25% contingency that we hope to not have to use. And the funding would be, immediately returned back to the CPC if it is not used. There is a match of $5,000 from the Natural Resources Trust and a match of $10,000 from the Conservation Commission. And I will continue to look for other state grants if they're available and appropriate for the restoration project. So that's a quick recap for you. Yeah.
Thank you. So I understand the contingency and the actual anticipated cost, but the third number of 304 for phase 2 construction down under total project cost. Is that including the money from NRT and Concom?
Let me just look. Which are you on page? Which page?
I'm on page 1. Total project cost is a third number. It says phase 2 construction costs are estimated at $304,800 to be further refined once the project goes to bid and actual bids are received.
Oh, I see right here. Let me just check the budget page for a moment. We may have just revised that section. And I may not have caught that.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry about that. I know we went through a number of revisions with you in the past, so I'm not sure, but the budget page does say it's $246,200. plus the 65,300 contingency.
Yeah, the 304 number is repeated in the body as well, though, right above that.
Yeah.
And that's, on the tie and bond cost estimate, they've got 243,800 plus a contingency of 25% is 61 for the total of 304,800. So that's what tie and bond has.
I wonder if that must be taking out our match.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you take out 15, maybe this gets you closer.
And then the
Also,
number for the roofing can you explain that add alt for the roofing estimate?
I think that was an estimate we took from the phase one. We had that as an add alt, but we didn't have enough funding to do that. And so we
Yeah,
just
like-
moved it over into this application.
All right, I was like, I did think I remembered the roof. Questions from the committee?
No, great. This is a great project. It's well overdue. Great property. Everything about this fits the criteria. That's why you're here, and you have my vote.
Thank you, John.
Is this anticipated to be the final? There's not a phase three. I mean, obviously there may be things that come down the road. Particularly with the property of this age, but we are expecting one and a third phase imminently.
It's not, I wouldn't say it's imminent, but this does not include that side addition.
might include that side addition, I think.
It does?
Yeah. Main Road South Addition sliding. I think it does. We did ask them. Yeah. It
Oh,
does.
South Addition. Yep.
Yeah.
Wayne, you're correct.
So I
Okay.
think we'll circle back with if the committee is supportive of moving forward, we can circle back with time bond to confirm any updated costs and report back if they're significantly different from what is represented in this.
Meredith had a question.
How will well, first, Jen, thank you for all your work on this. It's a lot, and we've seen this project for some time now. And so it's exciting to see this nearing the end.
Mhm.
How will the town, the public residents be able to use the building? Can they reserve it? Will it only be for those who are farming there? What's the process? So for anybody who's listening or just for communication, once it's completed, will there be an opening? What's the plan for public use?
I think there are proposed public events by the farmer. Just to invite people there to see, the operation. Yes, but primarily managed and used by the leaseholder. Yeah, thank you.
Other questions?
Modification that was to enable large machines to be moved in and out. Was that done in phase one?
It was not, no.
Right.
Is that still then part of phase two?
It is, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, the inside of the building has been raised, but not the barn door that would get them into it. So that's part of phase two.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Well, can I move inclusion? It's approval and inclusion.
The O'Dwyers are the leaseholder, correct? Am I correct on that? Yeah, okay.
We have a motion from Jim. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, a second from Ed. Any further discussion? All right, going around again. Ed,
Aye.
Jim,
Aye.
Meredith,
Aye.
John,
All right,
Bill,
Aye.
And Verla is an aye as well.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jen.
Bye.
Have a good day.
All right, back to my agenda. Next, we have Meredith. I know you weren't here last time. We continued the discussion from 2 meetings ago about coming up with a framework for each of the 4 CPC areas to kind of identify how to prioritize all of the many worthy applications we get, given the current funding crisis in the town and around the Commonwealth, to make sure that we are being as careful stewards of the town's money, even though it is in a separate pool, as we can possibly be, and try to achieve, um, make sure that we're aligned with the larger town priorities. So we have broken up into 4 subcommittees, and 2 of them are presenting tonight. And the first will be open space, who is going to be leading that discussion.
Gee, now that I've been promoted to officer status, maybe we should let John do it. But I did a lot of the writing, and then John did a lot of the fact checking. So I guess I'm the one that's stuck with it.
Yeah, Ed did a great job.
I could also do the old teacher trick and say, yeah, you all have it, and you can all read. So maybe the best way to start off is, are there any questions? Great. Okay, I move to go on to historical. No, let me just do a quick thing. Basically, John and I both felt that in the high pressure situation that the PACE committee was faced with, mistakes were made, and basically, if you take a pair of binoculars and look through the good end of the binoculars, you can see things one way. But if you look through the other way, you can still see things. And John and I believe that maybe we need new growth, more money, more money, more money was maybe not the best way to sell this to the town, who, based on the open space and recreation plan, were very, very strongly in favor of quality of life issues. So basically, what we're saying is that we're not opposed to finding ways to raise revenue, and we have some suggestions, but we need to take into consideration quality of life. One of the things that was suggested was that let me bring this up here. I can share, right? Maybe, yes.
I think as a webinar, my experience is pretty much everybody can. So I believe.
Oh, great.
Now I've got it up and I can share.
I have it up too, so.
Oh, good. Well, can you put it up then?
Hold on a second.
It's not on my screen. It's good.
Share. Come on. Share. There we go. How's that?
So yeah, there's that beautiful chart, and that's from the open space and recreation plan. And basically, the blue is where everybody thinks it's very important to preserve conservation land and active recreational land. Having spent some time standing in the middle of parking lots this summer, I believe that's true as well, because those parking lots get very, very hot, and that's one of our gripes. One of the things that the PACE program recommended was a dramatic change in the statutory role of the Historical Commission and the Conservation Commission, which was to do everything we could to promote growth. That's not our job. If you look at the statute, basically those guys exist. Conservation Commission has a lot of wetland stuff that they have to do, but basically both of those are boards that exist to perhaps act as checks and balances rather than promotion items. you can see under number 3 here, it says preserving Easton's character is not a subordinate clause. And every time I looked at the PACE report, it was yada, 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 more growth, and by the way, preserve character. Or while preserving character, which is even the worst one. And we don't think that's the way to do it. We think that we can promote growth with very careful consideration about preserving character. One of the good suggestions that came from the PACE report was doing an evaluation of any property acquisition that might take tax-paying property off the list. But we feel that there also should be much greater emphasis on analyzing the negative impact of growth. Speaking of those parking lots again, creation of heat islands, removing of carbon sequestration by knocking down all the trees. I think an example of actually bad planning are the 2 public safety buildings, which basically started off by clear cutting the space and then putting up wonderful concrete. That seems to be the way to go. If you haven't heard, we have a Taco Bell coming, and it's not terribly popular in town. And part of the reason for that is it doesn't fit into the character of the town. But it does provide new growth. We feel that more can be done to preserve character while promoting growth. You know, Taco Bell, that did not necessarily have to put up a generic Taco Bell. I do have to give them credit. I drive by there every day. They're really intensifying the amount of landscaping that's going in down there. And if the planning board made that a requirement, then that's very good. So that's our gripe on kind of the way we'd like to see this looked at. Multifaceted, not just promoting growth, protecting the character as well. If you look closely at the open space and recreation plan, the open space plan is pretty well nailed down. They're making recommendations to preserve property in open space that we have generally identified over the years as our prime properties as well. On the other hand, that may not, in the era of new growth, we may have to consider giving up some of those properties to other things. One of our priority properties has long been looked at as a way to bank some land that could later be used for an additional school or an additional something or other. So when we look at purchasing of land, we're not necessarily looking at just preserving open space. Could we move this down a little bit? Can I do anything with this? Oh, I can. Look. So you can see what's being recommended in the open space plan. Preserving important farmland soils and preventing conversion of existing farms. Basically, our big farm is Langwater, and we just voted to help keep that in business. So that's a good thing. Simpson Spring property, the Marshall Farm, et cetera, et cetera. One of the recommendations here is rather than put everybody on the spot, the last time we had a priority list, every property owner panicked. And the other thing that happened was that it probably drove up the prices of those land, knowing that we were going to be one of the bidders. So what the what the Conservation Commission has recommended outside of the open space plan is a grading system, and they have criteria. Did I have that up above? Could we back that up just a little bit? No. Okay.
I think it's underneath it.
Yeah, it is underneath it. Yep, there we go. So there, yeah, here we go. Protecting aquifer, which is, we hear people that are beginning to complain about our water resources. protecting headwater streams and wetlands, providing access for boating, canoeing, fishing, etc. None of that is going to involve a great deal of taking land out of growth potential, because wetlands are basically protected anyway. But that's one of the things that they're using as criteria. One of the things I'd like to explore a little bit more, we didn't put in here, is that we have a map that lists every single parcel in town. And we have a ton of maps in the open space and recreation plan that talk about a lot of these things. And I think that rather than be reactive, we could, in theory, score these properties in town before they come up by simply overlaying maps, adding a point total, et cetera, et cetera. So it's not a big surprise and a big rush, and we have to do this right away, blah, blah, blah. We can be proactive. I like the point system. I'm hoping that the historical commission would think of the same kind of a thing, although not that it's my committee, but I'm vice chair now, so I can look over the whole purview here or whatever, and say that I think the historical resources in town are much better protected than the natural resources, simply because we have more rules to protect buildings from being destroyed. All right, if we could just move down to the bottom. The one thing that bothered me the most, and oh, look at that. Yeah, the one thing that bothered me the most is the page got blank really quick. I didn't put it in. One of the reasons that there's if you want to look at a long wish list of how the town could be made better by having a whole lot more of recreation facilities, like an indoor pool that's Olympic size, or at least high school size. There's a huge list, and a lot of the things we can't pay for. So I would suggest that a good use of our time might be to take a look at that list and see what we can pay for and what we can't pay for under CPC rules. As we all know, the recreation part of CPC is among the most restrictive parts.
And I'm sorry, Ed, that is in the near final open space and rec plan online.
That is correct. Yes. Yes. And the last point I want to make is, out of deference to Amanda, I didn't recommend paying for any parking lots. So that's something we need to look at as well, I guess, at some point. So be more proactive. Make sure you look at the pluses of preserving character and look at the minuses of new growth. Not to beat up on Taco Bell anymore, because we could also beat up on Chipotle, but from my historical hat, the Five Corners has always been a commercial district, and it's just, there's more potential for it to look different than a store in a house from 100 years ago. But we're doing our best to develop an ideal neighborhood in Furnace Village, and it's working out really well in a number of ways, and that's going to be a real special thing. And then we chuck a Taco Bell on the end of it, and maybe we could have done better and still had new growth. So are there any questions now? Have I made anybody mad? John? Oh.
No.
Okay. You have to appreciate the fact that politically, John and I are like, matches and gasoline, but we agreed on this.
We did very well having
we did.
coffee and donuts.
Yep. Meredith.
I don't know if this is an appropriate forum to ask, but seeing that we're talking about open space, is there any plan, or anybody know what's going to happen with Center School? Are there any further thoughts on that? The current police station on Lothrop Street, there's a large parcel of land right behind it as well.
The fire station on Bay Road, yeah. Those are questions I get all the time, and I don't have any answers. So maybe Wayne could.
Wayne might.
Yeah. Hi. So as folks may know, we received a small grant from Mass Development, who contracted with a firm called Studio Loose to do a bit of a public planning exercise for these 3 parcels or properties. It's DPW at 130 Center Street. It's police and fire at, is it 4648 Lothrop, I think is the address. And then it's Fire Station 3 and the Water Department building and the historic Furnace Village school building down at 413, 417 Bay Road. And then there's also a landlocked tax title parcel called 11R Highland just behind it. There was a very well responded to survey that ran for a month or so. And then there was a public planning meeting as well at Frothingham that took in feedback from folks on what they would like to see, the potential new uses to help the town, the select board, contemplate what a reuse might look like. So there were a number of different ideas. Folks were very interested in, say, a senior and community center at DPW. Folks were interested in some sort of recreation or child-oriented use at Lothrop Street, and several other uses as well. And then we're interested in mixed-use residential commercial on Bay Road with retention of the historic school building. Part of the contract with Studio Loose is to put together a just a rough concept for the most likely to be redeveloped soonest, which is the Bay Road sites, being about 13 acres on sewer. They're probably the most feasible to be developed near term. So they're putting together a very rough concept of family-oriented townhouses for about half the site, some single-story cottages suitable for senior living towards the middle, perhaps a commercial building along the street frontage. Folks, of course, are very interested in commercial uses and the revenue that might bring. And then using historic preservation tax credits to rehab the school building, possibly as artist live work studios, sort of some sort of live work concept, and possibly use the small auditorium as, say, a gallery or a public meeting space. So that's a rough idea. A lot of that, of course, would have to be further refined and then tested against the market. To see how feasible all of this is. But that would be at least a year out, I think. And then the other 2 properties would be even further behind that, especially if the residents' desired uses would require some significant public subsidy, which of course is somewhat at odds with the recent funding possibilities in town. So, that I think would require some further conversation on what happens with those properties as time goes on. And I'm Ed.
Yeah, one question I get is we did talk about the center school property, and somebody came in with a proposal. What's happened to that? That's a question I get a lot.
I do not have information on that.
Meredith?
Meredith?
This is not confirmed, but my understanding is that there is possible legislation in Massachusetts. I would need to confirm it because I was told this, I think by Joe Pitty, to ban turf, building new turf in Massachusetts.
I'm sorry, building
And
what, Meredith?
turf fields.
Okay.
I don't know where it's at in the process, And so, based on that and the response from the town meeting that we had, I'm not sure that the field house folks were looking to move forward. There was some significant resistance there. I haven't talked to them about it, but this is just what I've gathered. Turf is tough right now. It meets a lot of resistance, as we had at the high school. There's environmental concerns, there's possible health safety concerns. And so that's a conundrum. It's it's a real tough one in terms of play space, because in New England, and it's what we dealt with the Richardson Olmsted School playground, because the just traditional grass cannot withstand the amount of use and pounding that it gets from multi-use fields like soccer, all the sports play on it, for example, up at the high school, and that's where the turf comes into play. And there's the PFAS issue. So that came up at town meeting where folks raised the question. They said, we just put $10 million water treatment plant, and now we're going to put turf fields in basically a wet area of town, which is fair. And so, this is the hard part. We need more fields as the town grows, sports programs grow. We do need more space for teams to play, and it makes sense. But where they're going to go, I don't know. The other big need that we have, believe it or not, and with all of us, none of us having young children, is, you may or may not be aware, but Maplewood stopped their after school program. And so people for some time have been left with little to no care. The only option is the Y after school program, which doesn't work for all children. And the care for children is almost non-existent. It is a huge gaping hole in town. Our summer program, for better terms, rec camp, which we would all know it as, sold out in 24 hours. And so that's a gaping need as well, and something that we should all be mindful of. There's also a need for activities for your 12 to 16-year-old age set. That's a need in town. Believe it or not, with all the activities and all the things, that we have access to in Easton, it's interesting to hear this component of it. But the hope was to expand the summer program further into the year. We had it for, I think it was 7 weeks this year, and there was a huge resounding confirmation from the parents that they would love to have it more. And what Rec Camp does a couple of things. One is it's an affordable option for camp. My kids went, they liked it because it was a traditional model for camp. It wasn't a different activity every 50 minutes. They played, the games that we all played as kids, and they really liked it. And so that's something. Oh, and one further piece, with the schools now looking to charge for any facility use, any building use, that's something that we all need to be mindful of as well. That's not something that happens in other towns that the school department would charge, but that's something that they're looking to, charge for parking, charge for building use, charge for field use. And so something to think about there. I kind of went off on a tangent, but thank you.
No, those were all things, we're talking about open space and recreation. A lot of those things that you just raised were not in the recreation part of the open space plan. So John and I didn't get a chance to take a look at those, and those are all very good points. Anything that would get those 12 to 16-year-olds away from the peach at 2:30 so that I can really good.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not gonna weigh in, but yep.
Yeah, we all went there when we were 16, I know.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about a financial component to some of this. I completely agreed with Ed on my gut reaction to hearing about um, the compound that was proposed relative to open space was quite negative. But I do also, on the flip side, see the point of, when we're prioritizing purchases for open space, is there a place for us to consider where this property is actually at risk of being developed? Is it developable? And should that factor into where this falls on the list of urgent priorities?
You mean it would be lower in priority if it wasn't developable, if it was developable and needed protection? Yeah, that's a good point. We do have one of our priority properties from long ago, continuing on, that the sticking point to acquiring it has always been differing assessments about how much of it is developable and how much, therefore, that impacts the value of it. Yeah, I think one of the things that both John and I concluded was we need to be more proactive. We need to, not get so much caught up in the annual cycle that we don't plan ahead. And we do a pretty good job. I mean, by sponsoring the open space and recreation plan, the housing quota thingy majig, and all of that. So we do have material that's available to us, but I guess we have to make sure we consult it at the right time too. Well, that's
So,
it for me, John.
Meredith, I had a question for Meredith. Well, I can address it to everyone. I was just thinking something out of the box. Under recreation, why couldn't we really think out of the box with something like Langwater, which in a lot of ways they're doing recreation. They have so many different activities on certain days for the children, for the families, and so forth. Why can't we look at something that would fall along those guidelines? I don't know if you heard what I was saying, Meredith.
Can you repeat yourself? Sorry, I've got kids
Yes, of
coming home,
course.
dogs barking.
We're all talking, and when we get into historical priorities, it's the same thing. We have to think out of the box because of the financial crisis that our community, state, and nation is going through. And you look at something like Langwater Farm, which in many ways could be classified as recreation because they do so many different programs. I don't want to say programs, activities where they're encouraging the kids to come, whether it be something as so simple as, the hay bales or the hay rides, or can we expand on something like that with such a big piece of property? Again, it's thinking out of the box, but here we have a massive asset and they're doing such a phenomenal job there. Every time I go there, I'm in awe of how this is materialized over the last several years. I mean, it's been a win-win for everybody. So with that said, is that something or is it too far-fetched to
Well,
incorporate something?
they did employ my daughter this year. So in terms of care for children, it worked brilliantly.
I mean, they could do again, it'd be endless activities.
Yeah, it's a question of staffing, and they're in business to make money, despite the fact that Kevin is incredibly civic minded. I'd like to speak in favor of a place that used to employ Meredith, which is the NRT, and their intent upon making a comeback under new leadership. And while they have maintained, their summer camp and all of that sort of stuff, maybe there's a possibility for after-school programs as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we've got so many assets that I think are underutilized, and I think something we need to look into.
I think it's a great point, John. Really great point.
Even, borderland, I know it's state property, but at the same time, and CPC funded part of the Smith Farm, that whole area. I don't remember, I really can't recall what access we might have had or have because of the CPC grants that we, no, Wayne's shaking his head. Can't be done?
Well, we can always work with the state, God bless us, but and we could also take a look at working with the trustees and people like that as well. But the Smith Farm project was set up for a specific purpose, which I assume they're fulfilling.
The veterans programs and such. Yeah.
I never hear of them. So
Well, they're out in the wilderness, so maybe we should approach them, and or maybe the town should approach them and say, do some more public relations so that we know you're out there.
I just saw something. I think they're having an event coming up.
Oh, good.
Yeah, very might even be this weekend. I saw it on social media.
Okay.
I do think Ed's suggestion of NRT is a good one though, because they've got the educators and the insurance and are meant to be watching children part of the year. I think that might be an easier.
I mean, there's being old. 30 years ago, Frothingham Park had recreation programs in the summertime. And Wheaton Farm had, between the time the NRT brought their summer program back to the main property, and when a person to run it kind of ran out of steam, there was a nature program up at Wheaton Farm that made use of that barn that we were just asking what you can use the barn for. So,
I was a camper there.
yes, you were. I know. So,
Other questions for Ed or?
Just a quick question, getting back to NRT. I mean, do they use the barn, or what's the deal with the barn at NRT? It's so beautiful.
the barn or the pavilion?
Well, both.
The pavilion is getting more use this year. Raising Multicultural Kids had its Juneteenth picnic up there, which was really cool. It was the first year there, and we needed to do more PR. And the Grange is meeting there on Monday night, assuming there's still a Grange on Monday night, but that's outside the purview of our meeting tonight. But they're beginning to make it available for organizations who want to be outside. The other barn, the real barn, the one project that I was involved in, there are some structural issues that limit the amount of weight that you can have in there. We had a very conservative, constructive person, and basically he didn't want to get permitting from the town, so he designed the most basic thing possible, and it should have been strengthened a little bit more. But yeah, it could. I still think it could be used, and the NRT is just beginning fundraising for a new barn closer to the front of the property, and they're committed to bringing back animals and things like that.
Oh, that's encouraging.
Yep. So
I'm mindful of the time. Should we move on to historic?
Yeah. So Phil, with input from Philip from historical and from myself. We compiled some bullets. I don't know if you want to put that up. Wait, can you get that up there? And Philip, feel free to chirp in on any one of those bullets.
Appreciate it, John. Thank you.
Yep. So the consensus with with historical is it kind of piggybacks on what we did with the land, and again, it all comes down to what we want the town to look like, and the master plan pretty much said that through our historical resource priorities. But there was a few that was unanimous in the thought process, and one of them it can be on the second bullet, the maintenance for town-owned historical buildings. This has been brought up in the past in a trend towards CPC funding, general maintenance from neglected projects under the assumption it's historical. As an example, the town hall, which has no capital funding set aside for this, and this was stated by Wendy Nightingale when we had asked her to come to a CPC meeting maybe a year or two ago. And the bottom line is there is no funding set aside because of the tightness of the budget. So will CPC be an ongoing maintenance funding budget for the town and historical properties? Will this divert other CPC smaller projects as an example? I thought this should bring some attention, and please don't misconstrue this as the town hall was used as an example. Magnificent building, needs it, but are we going to be for buildings like this going forward the financial wing to upkeep the historical nature of the property going forward, and which would divert the funding for maybe smaller projects in neighborhoods and so forth. I'm just curious of everyone's thought on that.
I don't know that there's going to be a choice.
So I guess again, the question would be, will we be potentially be the maintenance wing of certain historical buildings in town, which we're very rich, endowed. So maybe to Amanda's point, we're not going to have a choice, so it might be a moot point. It is a little, we don't have a choice. It's just a little concerning only because the tightness of it. How are we going to be knocking out, again, some smaller projects elsewhere or larger ones such as Oaks Ames will be coming, I'm sure, to CPC again in the near future. And that is going to be a hefty price tag, I'm assuming.
Ed?
Yeah, very quickly, John, make sure you make the distinction between town-owned historic buildings.
Yes.
There are not very many, really, and privately owned historic buildings. We can't. Actually, I guess we do. And let me back up a second. I'm not guessing. We do very well when it comes time to do some maintenance on a government building. Of getting some grant money. I mean, look at what we're doing at Swifts Park. We've got a lot of grant money there, but oftentimes the privately owned historic buildings don't do as good a job at fundraising, and we need to encourage them to do that.
Agreed.
And I'm not here to slam the hall, but there are other programs and historic buildings in town that need some work that the other people have to come up with some cash.
Agreed. I'm skipping around some of the bullets here. Some of these have been documented in our resource
Jim
of
has his hand
historical
up.
priorities. One of the ones toward the bottom, the encourage. This was a biggie. How I see it, encourage mixed-use applications pertaining to historical properties in development on the same site. As an example, 531 Foundry Street, they have turned an historical home into 2 units, maintaining its integrity with a new 3-unit duplex behind it. If you haven't seen it, I think it's a great example of mixed use historically, like in several other applications or potentially developers coming in and just want to tear it down in putting just a duplex where they turn that beautiful home into 2 smaller duplexes and then built that one behind it, which you really can't even see from the street. I think it's a great idea moving forward. It encourages, again, historical preservation, protection, and possibly protection. And again, I repeat the mixed use part of it, where now we have taken and added some more homes. Any
Jim?
questions? Any questions on that one?
Yeah, Jim's got his hand up.
Yep. Oh, I didn't see it. Sorry.
That's okay, Joe.
Yeah.
Semantically, I think earlier point, maintenance is not something that CPC can deal with. So I think I know what you meant, but you need to rephrase that to
Yes.
restoration.
Rehabilitation is the.
Yeah. Okay. Rehabilitation. Thank you. But it's you don't want to cause trouble.
Yeah, you know what? That's a very good point. Thank you for bringing that up.
And we talk about 18th century buildings here in your bullet points. There's 32 of them left in town. There's not many. I might recommend expanding that to first period houses or houses up to about 1825, when almost all the buildings get to be houses we'd recognize today as houses and not the little Cape Cod things that we like to preserve.
That's a good point.
I think I have a question about, to Ed's point, I was racking my brain about what other town-owned properties there are besides Town Hall. And my sense was that it was years and years and years worth of deferred maintenance, but that we had taken a pretty good crack at catching up with that and anticipating, preventing further harm. Is there substantial work on that in the future, or is this a 5-year, 10-year, 20-year concern?
Well, let's see, Ed.
Oh, no, wait a second. We have an expert here someplace. Wayne's disappeared, but let's rephrase that question a little bit. I agree with Amanda that the town hall is in great shape right now, and we've spent a lot of money on there. But is there a 10-year and 20-year plan so that we can maybe begin to think about setting aside some money if we need to do a project? What's the plan, Wayne?
There is no plan to escrow funds in a dedicated fund for a potential construction project at Town Hall.
Thank you.
And I don't think any building in town has such a thing, whether it be the schools or anything like that. So that is, I think, just not something that is really done. And I think in the current fiscal situation, it's not likely that the town is going to squirrel away money for town hall in 50 years, maybe. I think the durability of that would not really last.
Well, one of the things I've been looking at recently is Norway's sovereign wealth fund. And admittedly, they have an oil field right off their coast. But they are squirreling away money, and that money makes interest. And um, we are in a position that the town is not, where we can squirrel away money. So maybe we should think about that, not 50 years in the future, um, but 10 years down the way or something like that.
So if I could repeat back what I think you're saying, the CPC should consider setting aside a specific escrow fund to provide for substantial rehabilitation work at Town Hall several decades in the future.
Well, if, as you seem to admit, we're going to be taking on a greater role in maintaining things, even though, not, and
I would
again,
also mention that you can't maintain with CPA funds. But,
yeah, no, I understand. Rehabilitate or restore or whatever. If that's going to become more of our responsibility and it's not going to come out of the capital budget, I think we should consider how much of an impact that might have and squirrel away some of it. Also, I mean, we have 4 areas that we look at, and some areas draw money every year and some areas don't. Uh, maybe we should think more about what we're going to do with that. Should we, we don't purchase open space every year. Maybe we should simply begin to plan about how we're going to use that.
I could just jump in real quick. I know, I think that this is a really important question and conversation that we should also broach to the community at large. We have amazing historical buildings in our community, and I applaud the work from you folks here. Just walking around town, it's just absolutely beautiful. But those buildings are ghastly expensive to keep and restore, and they're museums, basically. They're very expensive buildings to maintain. They're not, as we see even with Wheaton Farm, the cost to rehabilitate that building, you could build a new building. Look at our own homes, right? I have a 35-year-old home. We have the final 2 pieces of replacing the last pieces of everything needing to be replaced in just 35 years. So I don't think that we're going to hit 50 years on these buildings, Town Hall, Oak City, whatever they are, all of them that we have. They are going to continue to need to have work. And the problem is, part of the beauty is that they're historical, but that is retrofitting. It's not going to Home Depot and buying parts and pieces. They're custom work that needs to be done that necessitates special carpenters, special painters, because it's preservation of historical buildings. And so I think as a community, and not just us saying, oh my gosh, this is going to come down the pipeline at some point, it is going to come down the pipeline. And if we don't continue to protect these buildings, they'll fall into disrepair, and that just becomes more costly, as our board has obviously seen. So I think that's something that we need to plan for, because they will just continue to get more expensive. The other piece that I wanted to share anecdotally is the fence, right? We've all come across the fence on 106 right at the corner of Pequannock and Foundry Street. And it was an expensive preservation. And at first, when Greg Strange brought it up, I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be tarred and feathered if I vote for this. I'm going to be skewered on social media. And sure enough, we have. But what I wanted to share, and I think that this is something that we could do, how I'm not sure I do it on a personal level, but when people bring up the fence, and I explain to folks that the history behind the fence and the fact that they should have a vision for what that corridor is going to look like 5 and 10 years from now, and that it will be radically different than it is today had we not preserved those pieces like the fence and the work that you guys have done with Swift's Park. It would be gone forever. There'll be sidewalks, there'll be stoplights, the new homes there that the planning board did a stellar job of making sure it stays within the historical narrative of the Furnace Village area. So I see a lot of it on social media for that corridor and a lot elsewhere. And I'm wondering if there weren't a place that's kind of bullet pointed and not 78 pages of plan for the community that we could point folks to say, this is what the vision is going to be coming down. It's adding this, it's adding that, because the preservation and maintenance that we're talking about with these boards and things like a simple fence that was built, in the Revolutionary War. When I say this to people, they get excited and they understand why we did what we did. But maybe we're not being proactive enough, and maybe that's where some of the funding can come from.
Well said.
Just a heads up for you fence fans. I always bring up the fence that we paid for on 138, and nobody ever complains about that one.
That's a good point.
But the point I really wanted to make is I did a walking tour at the beginning of the tricentennial on Church Street, and there's a beautiful iron fence that runs 3 times longer than any of the fences down there. And one of the people on the tour put their hand on it and it crunched, and they said, oh, this is a job for, oh, wait a second, CPC was not going to pay for this one because nobody will ever see it. Well, it's something we need to think about. Do we want to save that or do we want to remove it? We were promised a playground down there in 1908 and we're still waiting. So maybe
That's
the
one of the bullets, Ed. So why don't we go up, in the interest of time, go up to that first one, which was the emphasis on cultural landscapes and 18th century structures, which are often overlooked and not talked about very much, as the Ames Building and the Ames Historic District sometimes overshadow them. They could use more attention overall, replace or install updated signage, which will promote and educate the public of these areas. Any questions, concerns with that paragraph?
I go back to Ed for a minute. And, I agree with your idea of setting aside funds. I think all it takes is to have Wendy add a line in the historic section of our budget that states this is escrowed money for that purpose. Because I think one of the things that we're looking at is getting back the shovel shop loan. And that would be an appropriate place to put it. And I think it would also identify kind of legitimate reason for holding those funds aside. It would help us in the future for planning, but it would also be a good political move.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's money that we spent, and I think it's been well spent. But it's money that we don't have, and now we're going to have it. So yeah, great idea. I like that.
And if I recall, when enter town hall, isn't there a sign? Is there signage there about CPC funding? I can't recall.
I think there was at one point. Yeah, I'm
At
not
one
sure.
It was there
I
for
think-
about a year and a half, but it's been taken down.
I'm sorry, Wayne?
It was there for about a year and a half. It's been taken down.
Yeah, I think we need to be more proactive with that. Maybe keep it up longer, because I can almost guarantee you, if we talk to 100 citizens, they're all going to think that it's being maintained out of the town budget, not through CPC funding. We need to push ourselves more to explain to people what we're doing, and we all know, without CPC funding, this town would not exist as it is today. And I firmly believe that. So again, we've got to give ourselves some kudos and push it out there even more. I know I do verbally, and people say, I didn't know that. I didn't know CPC did that. I didn't know they did the playground or the playgrounds at the school and so forth. They think it's all coming out of the school budget.
Yeah. It probably should be coming out of the school budget in some people's opinions. But that's
again,
here, John. Maybe what we should do is what people did 50 years ago, and have the CPC make a brochure with pictures of some of our projects, and it doesn't have to be special or bound or anything, and hand it out at town meeting.
Town meeting, and I had brought this up pre-social media with the historical commission to do something in the newspaper about what we were doing, so people know. And the old line, "Oh, aren't you the historical society?" People still can't distinguish
Yeah, no, they
between the
can't figure
two.
that out.
Yeah, but to that point, to the point of getting us out there, maybe we should do some type of a post monthly, and each one of us, I'm just throwing this out, it's just coming out of my head. Do each one of us take a month and do a post on, did you know CPC is doing this?
And you've been around long enough to know that
you know,
that's not going to work. But
why wouldn't it, like in the town crier or something like that? I mean,
Because-
everybody goes after
because
these.
I'm going to forget and not do my month, and then I'll
remind you.
months. You know what we should do? That's a little bit easier on our personal time and resources. Instead of printing out a book for town meeting, add stuff to our website. The Conservation Commission has maps of trails and stuff like that. Why don't we put up a brochure of pictures of our CPC projects? And each year, as we add to them, add to that. And then all we have to do is tell people through the town crier, take a look at our website, new and improved, and here's what your CPC dollars do at work.
I'm amazed. I always, people will, we'll start a discussion about anything in town, politics, projects, whatever it may be. I'll say, you know what, go to the town website. Oh, really? For some reason, if it's a social media thing, like the parent Easton Women of Today, I'm trying to think of all these different things. Those are active. And when something's going on around town, these groups get right on it. So why couldn't we, again, this is going to take up too much time, but it's to the point of getting us more out there with what we're doing in the funding of some of these projects. So
Why don't we put outreach on the agenda?
yeah, I think that's a good idea, Amanda.
Next month.
We could talk about that quite a bit.
Maybe the
Perhaps
historical
next month after that, because
Got it.
we still do have 2 other areas to talk about. But
Sorry.
I think we could talk about social media for our entire meeting. And all of these ideas are good and would reach different parts of the
So, I mean,
community.
I'll pick up 1 or 2 more bullets, and then if anybody's got any questions, and look it
Can we
over.
get, before we skip on, I do think that the second bullet probably doesn't belong That's more of a philosophical question that we've discussed and is near and dear to all of our hearts over the years. But, you know, fortunately, I don't think there is anything that any of us are aware of that's coming down the pike in the next few, well, I mean, who knows? There could be emergency repair of some sort, but um we
Yeah,
have
I don't have any, I see your point.
yeah. But as between like police and fire and teachers and painting at town hall, I know which one is going to win.
I'm sorry,
We
I
should
missed
be doing
the end of
painting
that. What did
anyway.
you say, Amanda, at the end?
I said between painting and police, fire, and teachers, I know who's going to win, and we shouldn't be doing
Oh,
painting
okay.
anyway.
Don't put your money on teachers. We could probably get a painting project in ahead of teachers.
Oh, come on.
Can we move that, Wayne? I can't move it on my end there.
I didn't understand the last bullet on the first page, frameworks.
Framework survey of the top 3 bullets of what actually needs to be done and focus on those items in locations most in need. The eligibility, correct. Next one is the eligibility criteria that would be needed for CPC funding for historical preservation be distinct and achievable sooner than later.
I didn't understand that one either.
That was brought up. I think Phil, is Phil there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically kind of going along with, we kind of mentioned earlier about town hall, like is CPC going to be funding the maintenance of it going forward? I wanted to kind of keep things in mind for CPC funding that things could be achievable. Staying with an example, yes, we could be doing some smaller projects that would be funded by the CPC instead of doing larger projects. My kind of thought behind this would be if we would be, I guess, quantity would be more preferred as opposed to spending a large amount of money on one project. We could spend that same amount across different projects. Just like kind of a thought process more. Does that make sense? Does that clear anything up, Amanda?
It does.
Wayne is saying no.
No, I do think that we might not have consensus on that because I think folks have been of two minds. And on the one hand, you have the town that theoretically, or I mean, any entity that has taxation ability has somewhere it could get the money from. But when you've got smaller nonprofits or community organizations, like if we don't do it, who can? So I think we've
Sure.
always tried to have a mix of those. I think John is usually the champion of the small project, if I'm recalling correctly.
You got that right.
Could we go back and just do a mention of the preservation of historic documents and artifacts? Of all the things that we've done, the only time that we've done a project to preserve documents was when we helped fund the fire suppression system at the Historical Society. But that's something that we can do, and we tend to forget that we can, and we do buildings instead of pieces of paper that would be useful.
That's a good point. And that was just done, was it last year or the year before?
Just done last year. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very good example too.
So I think we could rephrase the fourth one as prioritization of the greatest historic preservation needs in the town, like going back 20 years or whatever it was, like when the shovel works were this has nothing to do with CPC, but that was like the most threatened historic asset in the country or one of them. So are you thinking of that in terms of urgency or in terms of something else?
That again,
Like
I'm gonna,
Oaks Ames would be a good example. Like that's always looming in the horizon. It's something that's going to require a lot of resources, and it's also extraordinarily significant historic
Right,
asset to the town.
right.
Okay, I think I know what you're getting at. Can we get on to the next one then?
yeah, get into that. Each CPA application should align with the town's master plan, community needs, and how it will benefit the town. I think we try to do this. I don't know, Ed, what's your thoughts on that?
Isn't that in the form application form?
Correct.
Yeah, so I think that one's taken for us. We do that one.
Yep. How each project submitted could leverage additional public or private funds to supplement CPA funds. Very important, self-explanatory.
I think that should be higher on the list though, because I do think even if it's a small project,
Yeah.
we want applicants to be putting their money where their mouth is or their energy in fundraising beyond just doing the CPA application and hoping that we can take care of the rest.
I think we've done a good job with that. I can remember not that long ago where an application would come in and it was pretty much for a full boat until and we'd say, what's the skin in the game? I mean, we don't have unlimited funding, especially now. So that's an important line. Emphasis on historical properties outside of Northeastern Village, such as Wheaton Farm, the barn, Marshall Farm, the McCarthy Home Barn, which we don't talk about too much, which is a beautiful structure. Morse Hill, Crowfoot Gear, areas of.
Is everybody aware that Alice McCarthy just passed away?
Oh
Yeah,
no.
yeah, the other night. Very sad. Lost about a generation of valued Eastonites who came before us. They're very, very active, yeah. And for those who don't know, the farm is still in the family, but the back portion, Ed, goes up to NRT. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. And NRT holds a conservation restriction on the property, which Alice was always getting NRT to focus on defending it. It was she loves that property and it's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous. I agree. And the barn is in very good shape.
Yeah, they spent some money on that. That was one. I mean, in theory, we could have been asked to put some money into that one because it is historic. But they took care of it on their own. And, that raises the question, John, since you're so interested in adding things for us to do, we don't do we don't do a Chaffin or a Briggs Award anymore.
Yeah,
and
I know. I've been
good.
asked a few times.
That would be a wonderful thing to award people for saving that barn.
Yeah, once we get through Swift Park, I'll try to get that on the agenda to start those awards up again. And again, Crowfoot Gear, the corner, that whole area right there. There's no signage. Nobody even knows what. I think it's the same person who owns was it a movie company or something? What is that? What it was, Ed? Do you remember his name?
I don't remember his name, but he is involved in the entertainment field. Yep, absolutely.
And that's going to evolve, as you can see, just from Crowfoot Gear, as long as we stay on top of that. But again,
well, that's supposedly an ongoing project of the Historical Commission to
correct.
maybe turn that into a local historic district, but that's been put on the back burner. A little more energy from some of our town boards might be good.
Let me put that down.
You're the vice chair there. You can do something about that.
Next one, more emphasis on neglected. This is for you, Amanda, because you were mentioning me. More emphasis on neglected or forgotten historical areas. As an example, Furnace Village, Swift Park, where forgotten history by many is now coming alive again. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Encouraged mixed use. We already went through that. I love that idea of this mixed use and maintaining historical integrity. And there's several properties just like that on Foundry Street. So hopefully, if something ever turns up, they'll use that as an example. 531. Oak Sands Memorial upgrades such as the elevator, air conditioning, and parking lot, which is on town property. I'm assuming that's going to be coming down the pike sooner than later. It's been, kicked around for quite a few years now. Identify historical properties that may be eligible for local historic district designation. There's several that Historical Commission is looking at. One, we're moving pretty forward with the Josiah Keith home. They've met with historical, and they're very excited about moving in that direction. Expand the local historic district, potentially adding a clause to the CPC application, how the applicant will actively solicit their project. Any questions on any of these bullets? Ed?
Not a question, but a philosophical one for us, and it doesn't have to be tonight. I aware of how much I talked. But how much should we solicit projects, and how much do we just wait till they show up?
That's a good question.
I never would have solicited, pickleball, but then the pickleball people showed up, and there we go. But should we be out looking for projects to do? And I'm not advocating for that, given the fact that we have limited resources. But I just thought it crossed my mind, and there it is.
To your point, Ed, I think we're not going to have any shortage of applications, but there's going to be projects that are out there that to one of these bullets that is not in the mainstream that we might be aware of just through historical connections and so forth. So I think that it's important for us to keep an eye on it and not just wait for the applications to come in. Do a little bit more proactive looking.
I think that would be good to add on the meeting that we solicit, or that we talk about outreach as well.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been very helpful. I think what probably makes sense is to for the two committees to present tonight to incorporate any feedback that we've gotten, and then once we've heard from the other two groups next meeting, try to get them into a consolidated, consistent framework. Does that sound like a plan, or are there any other suggestions?
Sounds like
That's
go
a good
forward.
idea.
Sure.
So that we aren't, I don't want to redo this all over again a second time, but I do
No,
think
I
we've
don't.
had some, particularly if we all do some homework on our own and ask Wayne to be his very helpful self as normal in helping us be consistent. I think this could be good. And I think all this discussion was really even though it was a little longer than most of our meetings lately. I do think we had some good discussion that I think will help inform our decisions on projects in the upcoming season or seasons.
I'd like to ask another sort of open-ended question, not to be answered or responded to tonight. I would encourage the group to think about what our next grant cycle might look like and what the timing for that would be. Usually we, solicit, I think it used to be we would sort of open it up in spring and, have like letters of interest, by late spring, work with folks over the summer to get it into a more ready for prime time shape, and then have a more formal application in fall, with the final applications and so on. So, would we be looking to do something similar in calendar 26? And just think through like what our next application round might be and the timing.
Can I jump in on that, Wayne? I'm wondering if anybody else is feeling the same sort of emotion with some projects. When we look at some of the, the conversation of what we've had tonight, I don't have words for it, but almost overwhelmed with the cost of how much things cost now. And of course we see that on a micro level, like how much is a carton of eggs? But, from when I started on this board years ago, it felt like we could be impactful with $50,000. And now at this point, the DPW safety complex, 150 million, the school, 80 to 100 million, even, we all have something in mind. If we were to get, if the money was no object and Oaks Ames Hall could be completely renovated and turned into a cultural mecca center, we're talking tens of millions of dollars. And I am just starting to drown in the idea of making headway with projects at this point in 2025. It just feels like things are just so expensive and we're not going to be able to afford to do cool things anymore. I don't know. Am I the only one? I'm not trying to be pessimistic about it, but does anybody else feel this way or is it just me?
No, absolutely, Meredith. And it's a concern. When we were putting the bullets together on this, and it's addressed in some of that. And I don't know how to answer that. It's scary on all counts, and it's in the forefront of everybody's mind, no matter what level you're at financially. It's all relative. But CPC is obviously we're not getting matching funds like we did 20 plus years ago. We're not even getting a fraction of that in comparison. But then to your point, the projects are massive, and especially some of these larger projects have to be bonded, and the interest on the bonding alone, I can only imagine on the municipal complex what we'd be paying on the bonding interest for sure. It would be pretty
And I think
scary.
someone mentioned reserves earlier, and I do like that idea of are we setting, we talked about setting aside for the different projects, are we also setting aside for major initiatives that are in any one year? And yes, we can borrow, yes, we can do this, but to Meredith's point, everything is eye-wateringly expensive, and do we need to start having a rainy day allotment for,
Well, we've got a funding set aside for some of these large parcels.
Oh, we
that
don't.
need.
We have
Well,
we have a list of large parcels. We don't have any money set
not
aside.
for all of them, but I'm just saying.
None. Tip
I
zero.
was like, wait, we have money, and it was scrolled away for large projects. This is amazing.
Could I say, number one, what struck me writing the stuff down is property taxes are the stupidest way to raise money that you could possibly conceive of because it's such a regressive tax. Second of all, the funding thing that the state has come up with disadvantages our communities. I don't know why the town administrators of those communities aren't marching with torches and pitchforks on Boston to make that fairer. And number three, what the hell was number three? Well, number three is maybe we should approach the Community Preservation Act Coalition to find out now, after how many years we've had this, should we be pushing the state to raise the fees on real estate transactions in order to provide more money for CPC? Because that's outside of our own property tax, which I
And
don't.
we're
But-
paying for that service.
Yeah,
Why-
and I would never argue not to do that. I just used it recently to look something up about a project, and I think it's worthwhile to do that. But there are lobbyists, and maybe that's, the point's been made. We've gone from 100% funding down to 20% funding. Maybe if there was more money to divide up, that would be good.
With that said, I think we do pretty dang good with the funding that we do have available in the projects that are coming.
And we're essentially going to have 2 years worth of money because we didn't do any projects last year out of deference to the town's touchy finances.
Jim had his hand up earlier.
I'm
Jim
sorry.
had a hand up. Didn't Jim have his hand up?
No, I didn't put my hand down. I forgot,
Oh, okay.
but I did.
So are we done? Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Yes, there are no items reasonably anticipated by the chair. So yes, I would welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Ed, thanks for taking that second in command position.
Yeah, wonderful. What a great job I've done so far.
All right, so we had a motion from Ed and a second from Meredith.
Yes.
All right, so Jim,
Aye.
Ed,
Aye.
Meredith,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Bill,
Aye.
and I'm an I as well. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you on October 9th.
Well, good night, everyone.
Yeah, good night,
Take care.
everybody.
Thanks.
Take care. Be well.
Bye.